Hello friends, and welcome back to VLADA'S place. Today I'm going to show you a simple way on making homemade cheese pockets. We are starting with 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. This additional half a cup we're going to set aside, and then we're going to pre-measure 2 cups of water. We will gradually add water and flour, and I also need to mention that we have 1 tablespoon of salt in this dough. So gradually work the moisture in the flour to create nice and soft dough. Now continue to work the dough, and the goal here is to incorporate all the flour into and moisture so well that they become a nice smooth texture. We ended up using 1.5 cup of warm water. So as you can see, the dough is not sticking too much to the walls of the dish. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to get a little flour, clean my hands, and then we're just going to put a little bit more flour on the side of the dish and clean up the sides, the walls of the dish. Bring all these little ingredients or all these crumbs together, and then just continue to work the dough. After working your dough for about 5 to 10 minutes, your dough should look like this. And now we're just gonna put a little bit more flour on the bottom of a dish so the dough doesn't stick, and we're gonna let the dough rest. We're just gonna cover it and leave it on a nice and warm spot. While dough is resting, we're gonna move on to mixing cheeses. We're starting with a heaping cup of cottage cheese, a heaping cup of ricotta cheese, and also a cup of feta cheese. In addition to these 3 cheeses, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of sour cream as well. To stick to its original taste, I would suggest not to use non-fat or low-fat dairy products. Next are 2 eggs, and preferably organic or homegrown eggs, just to get that rich orange color in the recipe. 20 minutes in, and we're going to go ahead and check on the dough. It will be advisable to redo a dough every 15 to 20 minutes, at least twice. This will help us get the very nice and smooth looking dough. I'm very happy the way the dough turned out, so I'm going to work on it for the 3rd time before we prepare it for stretching. A little bit more work, and we are ready to cut the dough. First, we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to separate these halves in 3 more pieces. So while you do that, use enough flour to prevent knife and your hands sticking to the dough. Once done, reshape each individual piece into another little bowl, and then we're going to start thinning them with a rolling pin. Thin them just enough to give them their initial shape, and now it's the fun part. I have a pot of a warm vegetable oil on the stove. Again, this is the dough is not cooking here. Dough is spending time in the oil strictly to warm up and loosen up. So make sure that temperature is not too high, and you can leave the dough in the warm oil for about 5 to 10 minutes. 5 minutes should be enough, but depending on your dough, if it's thicker, you might need a little bit more. In any case, you will take the dough out once the dough is ready to loosen up, as this one is, and then just put it on a hard surface and use your fingers and your palms of your hands to stretch it out. Goal is to stretch the dough as much as is possible, and especially to stretch the edges, because this will ensure the flakiness of the pockets. It's time to add cheese, and this amount of cheese that I suggested is enough for 6 pockets. However, if you like a lot of cheese and in your dishes, you're welcome to add 1.5 cups of each, or even up to 2. So going back to the dough, you saw what I have done. I filled in the cheese in the middle. I folded both ends. I'm adding a little more cheese in this layer, and then I'm gonna fold them like this, and just pick them up and transport them into the baking sheet. And so continue doing this until you run out of the dough. And as I mentioned earlier, as soon as you take one piece out, make sure your hands are nice and greasy, as they will be, and make sure to put an additional piece to cure while you're working on this one. This piece had a chance to sit a little bit longer, and you can tell it's so much easier to stretch. It's more uniform and the dough is a little bit smoother. So if you allow dough to sit in a warm oil a little bit longer, this will only help with stretching. This is a shortcut to making a filo dough, if you will, but in one of the future videos I will show you how to make a filo dough that's it's even thinner than this for similar dishes or for different strudels. In any case, this was the first time I made dough like this. I've seen it once in a church when we were preparing a community event. Somebody was doing a dough like in this fashion, and I really liked this idea. So I wanted to try it myself, and obviously it's very easy and it works, so you too can do this. But this is not the traditional way to make a filo dough. The warmth of the dough and its texture and how easily it's just moving, oil, and just the whole notion and the motion of this, it's wonderful. So those of you who are bakers, I think you'll understand, and those of you who are not bakers yet, this is one of the greatest therapies out there. So working with the dough, it's fun and it's good for you. Cheese pockets are going to oven on 350 for about 45 to 50 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up the kitchen. And while I'm doing this, I want to just remind you not to throw away the oil. Save the oil for frying or other uses that you might have down the road. In addition to cheese pockets, I'm also making a sourdough bread and barbecue for our volunteers tonight. If you are not already a subscriber on our YouTube channel, consider joining, because next week we're going to share a recipe on homemade sourdough bread and also how to make kefir. And they're finally done. This is a great little lunch with a little side of salad, and as you see, they look really good. And the whole point of making this dish is to stay away from frozen factory-made cheese pockets. This is homemade, delicious, it's fresh, and it's good for your kids. Cut in small pieces, this dish is great served during the parties as an hors d'oeuvre or as a lunch for school or work. Now the lunch is done, my little crew is going back to work to help clean up our neighborhood. Feeding kids good natural food is just as important as teaching them how to give back to the community. They have put a good day of work, and we are almost ready to have a dinner. And as you can see, the bread came out very good. This is a sourdough version with the buckwheat flour and flaxseed. I didn't expect this bread to turn out so well, but as you can see, it's nice and moist inside. We're serving this with my daughter's barbecue rib recipe. You can find us under VLADA'S place. And for those of you who are following us, stay tuned and enjoy your Saturday afternoon.